Would you tell something about on the topic final destination?
Final destination?
Yeah.
Is this a special request?
I don't know. I mean, the other day I was just browsing some and I see this quote, final destination, and it kind of like sticks with me. Because I thought that for different people there's different, so to say, final destinations. And like as also as a final like aspirations. So maybe we could define who is going where and what's the final destination for a practitioner of Gaudiya Vaishnavism.
The goal. Prayojan Tattva. Like that. Well, now we're watering the root. Now we're feeding that seed, and we're trying to make the soil fertile. And if we can do that, then the fruit will come of its own accord. What is I don't feel qualified to discuss what is, well, we don't have to go specific, I suppose. The specifics are too high for general discussion. In the line of Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Radha Giri Hari Ji Sita. The Srila Maharaj, his expression was under Rupa, through Lalita, towards Radharani. That is the final destination of this camp. In one place he's discussing the aspiration of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and how he came to take shelter of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu put him under the care of Sriyukta Damodar, and then he went to. Finally, he ended up going, in his last days, he went to Vrindavan. After Mahaprabhu Sriyukta Damodar left, he went to Vrindavan. And then he came to the shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami. And there he found the deepest affinity, not directly with Mahaprabhu, Shri Radha Krishna, not with Sriyukta Damodar, who is Lalita Saki, the most intimate attendant, but there under the service, in the service of Srila Rupa Goswami, Rupa Mandra, there Srila Sridhar said it like the desired stop on the train, like that was his final destination, you could say, the destination of his journey. He found that to be the place of closest affinity and most satisfaction. And that is the final aspiration of our. And so Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he is our Prayojan Tattva Charja, the teacher who has shown us what is our highest aspiration, or what is our final destination in the camp of Srimati Radharani, and specifically under Rupa Manjari and Lalita Saki. Why there? Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in one place he mentions two reasons. He says, one, because we ourselves are potency, we are Shakti. Krishna is Shaktiman, and we are one of his Shaktis, one of his potencies, one of his energies. So it is natural that we will gravitate to who is supreme amongst the Shakti, who holds the highest position on that side. It is natural we will go towards there. And also he said it is simply reasonable. It is because we were on the street the other day, and then we think we want to go to have the most intimate connection. And so, in another place he also expressed that, he gives that example of a mountain. From a distance we're seeing the highest peak, that is Krishna. Then we come closer, and then we start to notice the beauty of the surrounding peaks. And he compared that to leaders in different rasas. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhur, the various camp leaders, those groups. And then we will find a particular location amongst those lower peaks. So it is like the third level where we will find our place of service in the realistic approach. But this is very high talk. As Srila Sridhar Maharaj said very humbly once, but it is applicable to me. High talks from a low mouth, low tongue. That is applicable for me. We're not qualified to discuss these things. That is some dig darshan, some indication of what is the aspiration of this line. And then in general we can say to blossom in a life of joyful dedication. That is in a general way we can say, that is our final destination, final goal, our aspiration. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Taranam. This example, I always like to use this example that Mahaprabhu gives in Shikshashtakam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The consciousness will be cleared of, as you were mentioning this morning, this rag and dvesh, attraction, aversion. These are the two general obstacles, tendencies that we have for exploitation and for renunciation. And those desires, they create dust, cloud. When I came from Milan the other day, it was raining when we were boarding the aircraft. Very dark clouds and raining, and so when we were ascending, we're riding through dark clouds on all sides, and then we went higher and higher, and finally went above the clouds. And I was so surprised. It was perfectly blue skies, no rain. We were just soaring above all the clouds, and crystal clear, beautiful day. And I was thinking, oh, this is so hopeful. This is so encouraging. Because sometimes it's like that. We're in these clouds of ignorance, all this smog, clouding our brain. We can't see things properly. We can't think properly. We don't have clarity. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarja, all these tendencies. They're clouding our brain, and we can't think straight, And these waves, they come and go. But then when they come, we can remember that, oh, sometimes, it's not that it's not always like this, I just have to hang on for that, these clouds to pass, or till by grace I can go above these clouds, and fly in that bright blue sky. I don't have to surrender to this forever. There is more. So anyhow, these desires that we have for exploitation, renunciation, they create these clouds that fog our brain. But by the grace of Harinam, Sadhu Sangha, Vaishnava Seva, we can become purified. Those clouds will leave us. Bhavamaha Devagni Nirvapanam. And our entanglement in this world of aversion, we can say, it will be extinguished. Entanglement in all its forms, gross and subtle, we will become free from that. And then the positive side begins. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Taranam. Mahaprabhu's analogy is so beautiful. the heart as a lotus that is blossoming under the rays of the moonlight of Harinam. So the heart begins to blossom, and what that means is it begins to awaken within the plane of dedication. It begins to find reality there. No, this is the substantial life. You know, here I'm finding myself. You know, what is my identity? You know, identity. This is such a critical issue, crucial issue. What is our identity? But in this plane, we are told, oh, you can find yourself by self-establishment, by consumption, by acquiring. In this way, you can discover who you are. You know, you can find yourself in this way. But here we are. But as we awaken in the plane of dedication, we'll find just the opposite. That we can truly discover ourselves not by taking, not by acquiring, not by consuming or establishing, but by giving, by serving, by dedicating, by giving up position, we will gain position. By giving up false ego, the true ego will begin to arise and awaken. By sacrifice, by service, we will grow, we will become greater. So this will become stronger and stronger, this service spirit, this, I think it's in, is it the foreword to Prapanajivanamritam, the boldness to serve, this type of boldness, it's a type of boldness, of giving, of service. That confidence, that conviction, that ego of a servitor, that will begin to awaken within us. So positive, joyful life in the world of dedication, to enter that dynamic flow, which is really the positive, the flow, what I wanted to say is the fundamental flow, what is the natural flow of the environment. And this gives us great hope, because it's not that we need to, in a sense, it's not like you have to climb up a big mountain, but you just have to jump in the lake that's running down the mountain. Or not swim upstream, but float downstream. So in a sense, it is the most simple thing, from one perspective. Because it's about joining that automatic current that is already flowing.
Yes,
but the challenge, of course, is that we have so many layers of ego which exist to resist that current. And because these layers, they're so closely covering us, we can't distinguish, what is what, which is coming from where. And we may not be ready either to do that. So that is the challenge. It is very encouraging to think that, that ultimately I'm not going to depend on my own strength. I don't have to be concerned about the final outcome, how everything's going to work out. But, Krishna's there, the Lord is there, Gurudev is there. If I can try to act in their interest as much as possible, they will guide me more and more to that current. path of least resistance. That is what we're trying to take. So we have to be awake to try to see how that current is trying to enter our lives. Or there was one informal talk Srila Gurudev he gave once. Jaggi Maharaj published a part of it on the Prema Dharma site a few days ago. And he was describing when he first joined the Math, like in the very beginning, and he was saying how every morning they would sing Samsada Dava, and how every morning they would sing that song, and then he expressed how he felt throughout the day. It was as if that song was like knocking on his heart, like, I mean, in his humility, like trying to like break down the walls, you know. And he felt the effect of that throughout his day. So actually, you know, everything we're coming in contact with, you know, that in the form of Guru, the Vaishnava, the genuine Vaishnava, the Shastra, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to knock on those walls, you know, of our hearts, trying to like, they're finding some little crack. Oh, we got an opening here. We've got an opening here. Srila Gurudev, he expressed how when Yoga Maya, you know, the Lord, his agents, they see that somebody has some tendency for Ananya Bhakti, for pure devotion, exclusive devotion, or we can say if there's some hope for someone, we can say it like that. That's my paraphrasation. So there's little hope for somebody. Then they will come to that person to send them, you know, tests, you know, to try to bring them in like more deeply, you know, into that current of devotion. So we have to become more and more awake to that. See how that current is trying to enter our heart, you know, trying to break down the, as we were mentioning this morning, the Hridaya Granthi, the knots of the heart, or the walls of the heart. See how those waves are coming in different ways, different permutations.
It's like situations, different situations.
Yes. Can come in different ways. Can be in the form of a situation, can be in the form of some
Obstacle.
Yeah, some obstacle, many different things. A situation describes everything. But yeah, it can be something that's coming from the environment. It's like coming to poke us in some particular way. You know? It can be some inner issue that will suddenly like come up, like a purging, you could say.
Or like unfulfilled expectation, maybe?
What do you mean by unfulfilled expectation?
Well, when you expect something to be...
Oh, okay. Yeah, good example.
It doesn't come up.
Yeah, those are like the best. Or one of the best. Because they really force you to enter the path of surrender. Like, you know, I had this plan, I wanted to do this, and then it like, you know, something comes and totally breaks your plan, and then you're forced to realize, oh, it's not up to me, you know, Krishna, what is your desire? What is your plan? Gurudev, what is my Gurudev's will?
And how much effort we have to put into certain things before giving up and thinking that it's not will of Krishna?
Well, we have every case is unique. and we have to carefully assess every situation. We've seen cases with Srila Gurudev where he's done both, you know, depending on, gone either way. Like for example, with when he was wanting to build an ashram in Vrindavan, and he was thinking, he didn't want to make something in the heart of Vrindavan, in the sacred area, because it was Western devotees who were going to come there, and he wanted to protect them from making offenses. And also Gurudev, in his humility, he also he felt some caution about going to Vrindavan. I was just going through an interview that Mahamantra Prabhu did with Janardhan Maharaj a few years ago, and he told how he came with Srila Gurudev to Vrindavan once, and when they got there, Gurudev said, "Oh, now I've come to Vrindavan, I have to do some austerity." And Janardhan Maharaj said, "How can you say that? You're a pure Vaishnava. You're the person who can clean the holy places. Like, you don't need to come and do some austerity here." But that was his sincere expression. But anyhow, so that was his initial thought, to make something, and he was doing it to facilitate the Western devotees, to make something there, some place where they could stay, and like on the outskirts of Vrindavan. And he was thinking by the parikrama path. And so he acquired some land there, and then he started some construction there, and then there was a storm that came and destroyed what he had built. And so he thought, okay, I have to wait. Like, I had this idea to build something here, but now this obstacles come, So he thought, I'm going to wait now. I'm not going to rush into anything. And so he thought, I'm just going to wait. I want to see what is Guru Maharaj's desire. He didn't give up on the necessity to build anything in Vrindavan. He still felt, I know it's necessary to make something in Vrindavan. He'd already decided on that factor. That, and this is like, when we face different situations, this is what we can try to ascertain. Like, first of all, what is really necessary? Like, is there one thing which we know is really needed? And what is dispensable? So we may have like a list of different things, and then question, okay, is this really needed or not? Or maybe this can go. We can have that flexibility. So Gurudev, he was still confident it was necessary to have something, but he thought, I have to wait and see, what is Guru Maharaj's desire. And so he thought, I will wait until some clear sign comes. And then he waited like several years, actually. It was maybe 3 years. And contemplating, because I've been through Srila Gurudev's archives, it was like over the years he didn't forget about it, and like after maybe 1 or 2 years, I heard one recording where he was like musing over the situation, like, I was so surprised that this happened, I was so sure it was the right thing, and like really he was deeply thinking about it. And then finally, there was that miraculous phone call that came when he was in Navadvip. And you know that story, right? The dead telephone rang him, Rupa Goswami's phone call. And then that lands right in the heart of Vrindavan, that manifest, that came to him. And it's interesting, Madhusudana Maharaj told me, because he was there with Srila Gurudev throughout all of this, and he told me that even after that happened, Gurudev was still reluctant. It wasn't like he thought, oh, now this telephone call has come, it's a miracle. This is like an obvious sign, we have to do this. He wasn't like all gung-ho like that. Gurudev still was very reluctant. He wasn't happy about taking that land. He felt it's so high, I'm not qualified. And but he thought, but I cannot refuse this because it's so obviously coming from above. So I cannot refuse this. I have to take it. But it wasn't something that he very eagerly accepted. He was still shy and cautious about it. So that's one example. Gurudev also described how the deities in Puri, the Nitai Chaitanya Dev deities, how they came to Puri, that they came, and we can also mention Srila Gurudev was super conscious about deities. He literally saw them as the Lord and treated them in a very conscious and very personal way. Oh, and considering what is their will, like we've heard from the devotees in California, how when the deities in Sokel, they were manifest in Navadvip, and then when the deities were ready, they were on Srila Sridhar Maharaj's samadhi in his temple, like on the side. And they were there for a little while, and devotees were kind of like, because as I understand, the deities had been like made like with the idea they were going to Sokel, but nothing seemed to be exactly clear, And so the deities were there for a little while, and then one day Janardhan Maharaj asked Srila Gurudev, so can we take these deities to Sokel? And the Gurudev, he thought, and he said, yes, you can. And then later, Janardhan Maharaj asked Gurudev, when did you decide that the deities could come to Sokel? And Gurudev said, when you brought it up, then I decided. So it was like, everything was still up in the air, Gurudev was waiting to see the indication, nothing was set in stone. It was never a material transaction. And so, anyhow, when the deity, these Nitai Chaitanya Dev deities came, they were sitting in Navadvip, and Srila Gurudev was considering where is the proper place for them. And he was thinking about making a temple that time in Govinda Kund, but then he had some trouble with getting a boat, and there were different obstacles. So he thought, okay, I'm going to wait. And he waited maybe 2 years, maybe a year or 2 years. But they came in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's time. And then finally what happened is Srila Gurudev was in Calcutta one day, and he was planning a trip to Puri. And I believe what it was is he was inaugurating a guest house or something like that in Puri. And so he was planning to go there and there was a group of devotees going with him. And then he was in Calcutta a few days before. And he thought, oh, I have these deities in Navadvip. And now I'm going to Puri with this group of devotees. Maybe I should install the deities there. And he thought, but I'm going to wait, I want to be sure this is Guru Maharaj's desire. And then then what happens the next morning, or maybe that same afternoon, I don't remember, but Tirtha Maharaj came to Gurudev very excited, and Tirtha Maharaj said, oh, Gurudev, I was just thinking that you're going to Puri, and these deities are sitting in Navadvip, and maybe they were being offered incense every day or something like that. But they were like sitting there, waiting for proper full worship. And so Tirtha Maharaj said, Gurudev, I'm thinking, why don't you bring these deities with you to Puri? And then Gurudev, he thought, oh, he's also thinking like this. And thought, but I will still wait, to be sure. And then after that, it was Mahananda Prabhu. He came to Gurudev also, and he made the same proposal. And Srila Gurudev said that really struck him, because he said, Mahananda, this isn't his matter. Like, he's never involved with these things, like deities and, this is not his area. So it was very surprising for him that even he brought this up and suggested it to Gurudev. So he thought, oh, then I can be completely sure this is Guru Maharaj's desire. He said, I'm thinking like this, Tirtha Maharaj is thinking like this, and Mahananda Prabhu is thinking like this. Yes, then he said, 1, 2, 3, and go. He said like that. So Gurudev was always very conscious and very cautious about making decisions, trying to see what indications are coming from the environment.
But that is so nice. In a smaller way, we try to apply that also.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is such a nice way of living, right? To
yes.
back up.
Yes.
And, my Lord, what you want, my Guru.
Yes. There's one talk where Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he defines karma in a very wonderful way. Srila Sridhar Maharaj has this incredible ability to explain things in such a way that are simultaneously very profound and also very simple and applicable to your own practicing life. And you hear and you think, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I can apply that in my life, that. It's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? But he defined karma as self-assertion. Self-assertion. To assert our own will on the environment. That is karma. That is reactionary. So bhakti, devotion, is just the opposite of that. It is, rather than imposing, asserting your will on the environment, you're trying to assess, where is that automatic flow going? How is that flowing? What is that will of the higher plane, and how can I make myself sync with that? I want to sync up with that current. So that's what bhakti is, to join the flow that's already moving. And so we saw with Srila Gurudev, that's always how he was making decisions, trying to, not wanting to act according to one's own ego, to assert one's own self, but to try to detect, to understand what is that descending flow, and how can I move with that. That was how Srila Gurudev always worked. And so many times he would say, everything is, it's like about the Samadhi Mandir. Srila Gurudev was not trained as an architect, but that Samadhi Mandir is so beautiful, really is so beautiful. If you compare it with by worldly standards, what to speak of spiritual consideration, just by worldly standards, it is so beautiful, from an artistic perspective. Here, we have an artist here. Can you verify my words? We have a award-winning photographer here. It's outstandingly beautiful. But Srila Gurudev, he was never trained, in architecture. But he said so many times, it's not me, it's all revealed. It is all descending. It is coming from above. And he would be there every day. We've heard the devotees describe. He'd be there every day telling the workers, day by day, step by step, drawing on the earth. Maybe you saw him with his cane. Now do this, now do that, It's every day he would have some inspiration. So that is, you know, as you said, you know, we ourselves in our little ways, you know, we are trying to live like that, you know.
And it feels so, it feels so nice when we can just wait.
Yes.
It feels so.
Actually, if our ego is not involved,
Yeah.
it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's like really exciting. Like, what next?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But if we're like holding on to our ego and we like have our rigid like idea set out, you know, and our pratishtha has to be there, then it's not going to be fun. And it's going to be very difficult. But if we're really just sincerely out, you know, like for the truth, you know, like sometimes I think of the example of scientists who are like researching something, and if they're really just interested in making like a real discovery or coming to a real conclusion, then if they're like defeated by somebody else, you know, they won't mind. They'll be happy, you know. Like Einstein, he made some adjustments to Newton's theories, right? Does anyone here know about this? That's correct, right? I think so. But I would like to think, you know, Newton, he was a real scientist. He would be happy. I mean, definitely there are cases like that, you know. And there were groups who like oppose the new modern idea. No, you know, we're standing for the old guy, you know. But a real scientist, they'll be happy to be, you know, corrected by somebody. But if they're just there to make a position or a name for themselves, then they'll enter into falsehood, you know. So
we pick up from the last one and then they progress, isn't it?
Right, yes. It's about progress. So we just have to move our ego aside, and then it becomes, you know, like a wonderful journey, you know. It's like you just have to, I was thinking the other day, it's like I just have to like move myself out of the equation and like just sit back and watch like what happens. Like, you know, we just want to be instruments, you know, let this flow come through us, and like I'm in the way. I'm the one who's obstructing it. I have to like move myself aside, you know, so this can come through in a brighter way.
The challenge is when it gets a bit wobbly, when it is a bit difficult, then the mind starts to kick in, or the nerves start to kick in, and then what you have, you know, trying to establish, then that is the test.
Yes.
Still in a very difficult times to still apply it.
Yes. Srila Gurudev, a few times I heard him say that when he's facing those situations, and then finally he gets some relief and he thinks, gets some relief by thinking, you know, Krishna wants to take my last drop of blood. Krishna wants to take my last drop of blood. And if he wants, he will take it, and that will be my great fortune if he can do that. This is my fortune. He wants to squeeze out the last bit, you know. He wants to take everything, you know. Krishna is not a democrat, you know. This is full-fledged autocracy, you know.
For our best goodwill.
Yes.
Such a relief.
So we have to develop this spirit of flexibility and openness. I was thinking about this. This verse is so important for us, this Jnane Prayasham Udapashyanamanteva. This is the starting point of pure devotional life, that Mahaprabhu accepts in the Ramananda Samvad. And so it's starting out saying, Jnane Prayasham Udapashya, to give up. And so generally, we'll say Jnane Prayasham means the endeavor for knowledge, knowledge-seeking attempt. But it can also be taken as, at whatever step we are at in our spiritual progress, to be ready to give up previous conceptions, So it's like an outsider's instruction and also an insider's instruction. Once you're inside the devotional path, is also relevant that, step by step, day by day, we have to assess and reassess, what is my current understanding, what is my current identification, and am I ready to give that up if necessary, and to embrace a higher truth, to accept a higher truth, to be open to that. Because otherwise we're like weighing ourselves down by these limitations that we impose on ourselves. So, infinite kind, 1,000,001 different types of limitations that we put upon ourselves. That I am this or I am that, whether in a negative, supposedly negative or supposedly positive way. We limit ourselves, we limit our capacity. So that example of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada is, it is like, so outstanding that he's 69 years old, right? And taking a ship across the Atlantic, and such a, showing such poor health. But all he was thinking was, I have to fulfill my Guru Maharaj's desire. He didn't consider anything else. And what miracles he performed. Of course, we cannot compare ourselves to that, but it is a very shining example. It gives great inspiration. According to the degree that we can set aside these various limitations that we put in ourselves, offer ourselves to that higher will, to that degree, that corresponding grace will come to give us that capacity, to give us that strength, to fulfill their desire. Jnane Prayasham Udapashyanamante eva jivanti sanmukaditam bhavadiya vartam stane stito shrutigatam tanuvamanopi ye bhajaso jitadito kiyansitai shrilokam. Gurudev also rendered it as this Jnane Prayasham: give up any mundane conception that you have, any mundane idea that you have, like throw it away. That is also type of limitation. Just throw it away. Anything you've collected from this world, any conception, any idea that you've collected from this world and that you're holding on you like a weight, like throw it away. And try to appreciate or to come under the influence of that pure truth, pure plane of truth. And take company of the sadhus, hear from them, and stanestito, wherever you are situated, whatever plane of life, whatever circumstance you're at, from that point, you don't have to change that, but begin hearing the absolute truth from the Sanmukaditam, from the mouths of the sadhus. Tanuvan Manobir, mentally, bodily, physically, dedicate yourselves to those messages, those divine messages. And one who can do that, who is ajita, who is unconquerable, he will be conquered. So this is the final destiny. Here we are, Ramananda Prabhu, we got it.
Okay.
This is, it's okay, he must be very busy.
Oh, he's going.
This is the final destination. Ajita, Jita. There's the answer to your question. That the infinite will come under the influence of the finite. That is the highest destiny. That is the final destination. Srila Sridhar said that Srila Saraswati Thakur, he made that comment that we can find, this is how we can trace real devotion, the presence of real devotion, where the finite, the infinite comes under the control, where the infinite, that supreme absolute, is subjugated by the finite. That is real devotion. And this is Vrindavan Bhajan. Come under the control, to be like that. Yeah, to be subdued by, subjugated. So this is like, so this verse, right, this Gyane Prayashanam, it is saying, it is describing the path of surrender, right? To give up your own estimation of the environment and to surrender yourselves to the sadhus and to the Lord, to act according to their will. But then, the very last line, it says, if you can do that, then that Lord, he will come under your control. This is the other side of the coin. If you can give up your own ego, surrender to his will, then he will come under your control. That infinite, almighty, supreme absolute. This is the prospect of Krishna consciousness. This is the highest attainment.
Because you will not will anything what he would not like.
But that's too calculating to think like that. Krishna is not calculating like that. He's only thinking in terms of love. He's not like making a contract. Okay, now we're going to enter into this agreement as long as I can be sure you're not going to do this, this, and this, because I don't like this and I don't like that. Okay, are we clear? Okay. He's not calculating like that. He's only thinking in terms of love. But we have heard our gurus mention, that for this, that one reason he's cautious about giving out pure devotion is because he knows that he will be under the control of that person. So he makes some obstacles on the path, some diversions on the path. He's keeping that hidden treasure, the gold, the pot of gold, not so easy to get to, making some diversions along the way. That is, that is also, the Gurudev has mentioned that, here to mention that. So this is the final destination of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Mahaprabhu's line. And our current stage doesn't have so much meaning, but we can appreciate that. And how does it make sense? Because logically it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense because of love, because love makes sense. Or love doesn't make sense. You could say either, I guess. But the point is that love is the most powerful thing and the most wonderful thing. So from that perspective, we can adjust it. That for the sake of love, for the intensity of love, the Lord is ready to carry the shoes of his Father on his head and to accept the punishment of his mother. Or as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, to fall at the feet of his beloved. This is Krishna consciousness. This is what our gurus are giving us. This is the appropriate lila. So if we can serve this in some remote way, we will think our lives are blessed. And one day may take some tangible form and meaning within our heart if we can continue on the path. Gurudev said, who can stay in this line, and the Guru Maharaj's line, they will reach that final destination. Gurudev said that.
I think in a way also we have felt to complicate it, to become a bit simple, more simple-hearted, and then we can see also more beauty and more how interesting it is. Like the mind is too full with stuff, and we can become simple and see, wow, it's pretty amazing everything.
Yes. Yeah, Gurudev, I think it's an affectionate guidance. Gurudev is talking about this verse, the Cheto Darpana, we were just talking about the first verse of Shikshashtakam, and he says, actually everything's in this verse. Everything's here. We don't need anything else. But the path is so simple, but we make it complicated. And he says this is a type of dirtiness within us, that we make it very complicated. But actually, it doesn't need to be. That simplicity, as you said, is very valuable. Srila Maharaj, he quotes this Sharal Hoibe Gora Shiksha Bhujya Lobe, that who is simple-hearted, who has simplicity, it's also rendered as sincerity sometimes. They can appreciate Mahaprabhu's teachings. Shamsundar is coming. We're just coming to the end. Oh, should we stop there, or do you want to?
I'm here tomorrow.
Okay. I always feel bad when somebody comes just when I'm finishing.
Yeah, that's so nice.
I feel very rude.
At least I heard the last end.
You heard the conclusion.
Yeah.
Who is simple-hearted, they can appreciate Mahaprabhu's teachings. They can understand. Sincere, simple-hearted. Should we stop there? Or any last thing? Shamsundar, would you like to sing?